I just wanna flow. Okay. Oh, I hope this recording works. All right. So I'm gonna give a talk that I just gave because the recording was lost. But I hope that the let me just adjust the video capture because I think this is kind of kitschy. I just have my head. Yeah. All right. So let's actually do this. So this talk is called Open Source Knowledge. And I think it's a little bit confusing because it could be construed as knowledge of open source, but it's very much meant the other way around. That you should open source your existing knowledge. And so this is going to be a talk in 4 parts. And the first part, we're going to talk about open source code. And you should try to think about like, what are the benefits of open source code? I think at this point in time, I don't really have to justify why open source code is good. That's kind of proven. But essentially, like, why does open source code beat closed source code? Probably a lot of factors you can think of, but the ones I think about are things like, anyone can contribute. So if they have a problem, they can contribute a fix. Or if anyone finds a bug, they can go through the source code and figure out the bug and help the maintainers resolve it. You also just have the benefits of transparency, right? Like you don't have secret features or anything like that, so people trust the software a lot more. And finally, of course, if people just need to customize it and differ and have different goals from the project, they can just fork it off, and that's fairly wonderful. And of course, it's usually free. And of course, I think it's always good to reflect on how important open source is. It goes right down to the foundations of our stack. So famously, Linux was created as an open source, version of Unix, and completely took it over. Oracle, closed source, and people are migrating over to Postgres, which is open source. And obviously, they're not exactly the same, but it does very much seem like Postgres is eating Oracle's lunch. And I like this quote from a recent Hacker News thread, where it just happened to fit the thesis. So I'm just including it. We're on Oracle for 15 years, but the cost was just too high. We ended up moving to Postgres. We thought it wouldn't be as good because we're not paying for it, but it ended up being better in a lot of different dimensions. All right, you get it. Open source code is good. Even languages. Anders Hallsberg, who's created a few of them, namely C# and TypeScript most recently, but then also like Turbo Pascal back in the day. He actually makes a statement like all future programming languages will be open source. Like you used to need to buy this like SDK for a proprietary language that some company owned. That no longer is the case. Like now we just expect everything to be open source. And so I think that's very much eaten software. Open source is eaten software, and we understand the benefits. I think, but when it comes to knowledge, the paradigms can be very different, and I think it's starting to change a little bit, and I would like to help it change more. So let's talk about open knowledge, and in my definition, it's just information that you share in public, and it's very, very broad. It tends to be more polished. It tends to be one-off. So it can be books, blog posts, polished cheat sheets, talks, libraries, and data. At this point, I should also acknowledge that there is a foundation, the Open Knowledge Foundation, but they tend to define open knowledge pretty much closely to open data. So that's great. That's very useful, especially when it comes to government, when it comes to machine learning. But it doesn't really cover what I mean when I talk about open knowledge with like the stuff around code. So what really informs my thinking is Cheng Lu gave this talk at ReactConf 2017. It's a really good talk. But the whole thesis is that there is a language and a meta language. So the language is like code. That's what we speak as developers. But then there's a meta language, which is all the stuff that's around that code that makes that code accessible to human beings. And a lot of times, like you probably couldn't use that code if these other stuff didn't exist. But we tend to value this a lot more, and we don't value this as much. It's actually pretty important. I mean, I don't have to justify it to you. You probably already agree, but I think we still systematically undervalue meta language, and that's a shame. Okay, so some examples for you just to map it, just so you can map it to your own experience. There is this Ruby cheat sheet from Amy Hoy. A lot of people have this printed out on their walls when they were learning and working with Ruby. And this is just like a polished thing, right? She like spent time on the artwork in the organization and all that. And that's really great. And that's open knowledge. Or someone like Alex Debris can spend weeks working on this DynamoDB blog post, and now this is the definitive post that everybody points to, and that's open knowledge as well. So cheat sheet, blog post, and then quiz. So Lydia on Dev2 tries to do something more interactive, something more educational, something fun. And I think that's very great as well. But you notice that these are all like just heavy lifts by individual people. It's also one-off. Like, well, after they're done with this, I'm sure they're moving on to other stuff, and they're not really revisiting this and changing it and evolving it. They just present themselves as experts. This is the definitive thing for XYZ, and then you enjoy the content, and then you go on your merry way. There's also this amazing talk on the event loop at JSConf that has been viewed over 1 million times, and this is now the definitive talk on the JavaScript event loop, right? Like, these are all great resources, because otherwise you just wouldn't have as accessible a resource. Like, you'd be reading like technical manuals and stuff like that, or specs and all that. That's less accessible than this kind of content. And of course there's a place for this kind of content, and that's kind of what I think about when I think about open knowledge. But it's very much individuals, right? Like, just working really hard and then putting something out there, and then that's it, and they move on. So how can we do better than that, or what's the alternative to that? That's what I call open source knowledge. So we should talk about what I mean by that, and I'm just kind of breaking it down, my definition, but you're totally welcome to think about it some other way. My definition, I kind of think about it in terms of open, meaning public, like it should be accessible by others. Source, meaning like it kind of links to other sources, right? Like it's the raw material, not the finished material, the raw material. And then open source means, as a term, means something that's more than the sum of its parts. Open source also implies collaboration, right? Like it's not just a single person; it's a community working on a collective goal. It's also positive sum, which is my way of saying that you can fork off whenever you like, and you don't, and nobody loses, right? It's just such a win-win thing that is so fundamental to open source. Like, I never lose by you forking. I mean, I lose your contribution, but I don't personally get damaged by that, and that's great. That's good. You go to fork away, and that's something that we need more of. Like, there's so much zero sum and so much like win lose in the world that we need more positive sum things like this. You should also note that it doesn't have to be public. You can, if you work at a large company, this can be very valuable as well to be an internal expert on the thing, and you own that domain inside your company. You don't have to be a celebrity to do this, right? Like, it's just a good idea that you can practice it in multiple scales, and it's up to you to choose where you practice it. So let's talk about the predominant example of open source knowledge, and of course that is Wikipedia. We used to have these things called encyclopedias, and you used to pay for them. They used to come in thick books. I think I remember having the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it was like 20 volumes, right? And it just had everything on Earth, and it was updated every year manually by a company, and it was totally closed source. And then Wikipedia came along and just like did the same thing better for free. And it was just unbelievable. The amount of quality and the amount of the speed and the efficiency, right? They have no budget, so that they get so much stuff done because it's open source knowledge, because people can collaborate and come together on something so fundamental as knowledge. And it's not code, but and my whole assertion is that it's as valuable as code. You might also see something similar in terms of like the awesome repos they're all around, started by Sindre Soros. These are just lists of stuff, but they're organized well. They try to be definitive. People come, like if there's something new that isn't there, people try and PR new items into the list, and sometimes they have multiple maintainers. These are great sources of open source knowledge, but obviously it can go a little bit more ambitious than just links, right? Like you could actually put in some perspective in there and some knowledge. Instead of just like wikis and git stuff, I like to include this example because it's the only one I can think of that's not that. It's actually commercial. This is Nomad List, started by Peter Levels. Obviously, he's making a lot of money from this now, but it started as an MVP, as a Google spreadsheet where people could open source their knowledge about different digital nomad destinations, and he collected them and then he shared them as a community resource, and it grew from there. So I think people he never paid anyone. Like he just people just contributed out of the goodness of their hearts, and they wanted this resource to exist in the world. And it's a lot like that, right? Like in all the other examples, like I need this to exist in the world. I can do my small part. Everyone else can do their small part. The internet is massive, and if this is a good enough problem, people will get together and solve it. It may take a little bit of wrangling, especially in skill and talent as a maintainer, but it can be done for nothing, and that's really interesting. This is Basara's TypeScript Gitbook, and it's a fantastic resource for TypeScript. Like it basically is a superset of the docs for TypeScript, and tons and thousands and tens of thousands of people have learned TypeScript from that, and that's amazing. This is one I found recently. This is Browser 2020. So this random person, I don't know who that is, but he just like keeps a list of like domains. Oh, sorry, domains. DOM APIs that are new that you probably haven't used, that probably do interesting things that you want to use, right? And there's a whole list. I watched that repo, and every time someone PRs in a new feature, I learned something from that. This person learned something from that. I don't know if it's a he, but it's a really good, it's a good resource. People also want it to exist. People refer to it, and people contribute to it. People will ask questions. People learn from it. This maintainer learns from it. It's just like a really good positive something to have around, and you can imagine iterations of this for everything that we know, which is absurd. Like there's just so much out there that can be open source, and we just have it in our heads, and we expect us to know that, and just learn on the job or something. It doesn't have to be that way. My example, so the whole reason, my whole motivation for doing this is I think this is pretty much everything successful that I've done in open source, which is not code, very sad, but it's open source knowledge, right? And I have a few examples prepared that I want to share with you. So here is where I skip to. Here's where I talk about some repos that I've done. So I want to get better at design like every other developer on earth. So I started collecting design resources, right? Like now I can go to I need an icon set. Let's look at icons. Here's all the icon set I've discovered, right? Like if I want free stock photos, here's all the illustrations. And this is like just very good, like Bless fonts. Where's my font stack? Here. These are all fonts that designers have blessed. And like, I don't understand fonts. I will have to learn it at some point, but I don't need to right now. I can just piggyback off of stuff that other people have taught me. And so these are all really good. And it gets me noticed, right? Like this is a small thing. It's not code, whatever. But it gets me noticed by people like Eddie Osmani, who's one of the engineering managers of Chrome. And he points to me and this, like, I win friends like that I didn't even know, like when he did this, he didn't tag me. I didn't know that he referred people to me, but I just saw the huge jump in stars, and I was like, oh, okay. Something happened here. And this is fantastic. Like, being able to help people in your sleep is amazing. And we'll talk more about that later on. So that's design/CSS tricks. The thing I'm mostly known for is React and TypeScript cheat sheets, and this is where, like, when I started my first dev job, I was asked to code in TypeScript. I did not know TypeScript, so I just like started copying and pasting things and making notes and organizing stuff, and it kind of just ballooned into this massive thing that we now have 12,000 stars, which is unreal. and you know, I have other maintainers that help me out as well. We have translations in 2 languages. Like it's just really amazing, the kind of thing that like people wanted this to exist. React had docs, TypeScript had docs, but there was no intersection of React and TypeScript. And I just needed it for me, but it turned out that there are a lot of people like me. And it doesn't take too much to get that going, right? Like no one else was doing this. So I just kind of got started doing it. And even if someone else was doing it, no one else would explain it like I did, right? Like, and so I had a very strict perspective of like, I want to get started quickly. I want to have copy and pastable examples and a little bit of explanation, and then some collapsible explanations for more advanced questions. But like, that's my point of view. You could have a totally different point of view, and you would create a totally different resource, and that would be helpful to a totally different set of people, and that's great. But ultimately, you will learn from that. Like, so I've taught people from like all sorts of companies, like Airbnb, PayPal, Google, whatever. And they've taught me every single PR that comes in is a teaching opportunity. Every issue, like I've just gone so far as to have an issue that says, just ask a React and TypeScript question. It doesn't have to be on this cheat sheet, but I have an issue that just says general React and TypeScript question. Just ask us, we'll answer for you. And if it's not already answered in the cheat sheet, we'll answer it. And then we'll copy or paste our answer in there. That's great. That's wonderful. And I've learned a lot doing this. So you could do that in the thing that you are trying to learn. And I think that's amazing. Like, It's gone so I mean, I totally didn't expect this, but like it's gone to the point where like the TypeScript core team understand that there's some part of the community that gathers here, that refers their friends here, right? So this better be good, right? So they'll send in PRs. This is Dan Rosenwasser. He's the program manager, like the head guy who's apart from Anders. He's the head guy for TypeScript, and he sends in PR like fixing some stuff. Right. And he was like, yeah, maybe you want to turn it down. I'm like, no, I'm not turning down the PR from you. But like, it's just absurd that like, you know, you cannot pay for this kind of thing, right? You cannot pay for this kind of mentorship. Like Ferdy is one of the maintainers of the typings for React. And so like, there is no bigger authority on earth for React and TypeScript. And he joined the project. And it's just such great things can happen when you gather open source communities and open source knowledge alongside of code. People need this. Okay, smaller examples. CLI cheat sheet. So this one, I think I have an example for this later on. So do I have this? Yeah. Okay. So this one. So I collected this because I didn't really know much about Node CLIs until I was assigned or volunteered to do the Netlify Dev CLI launch last year. So I started like just accumulating a bunch of resources and like looking into other people's CLIs and seeing what they use and just like put it together. You could call this an awesome list, right? Because there's just not much content here. It's just kind of linking to stuff. But it has my point of view and it has my sort of touch on it. Whatever, I call it a cheat sheet. That's my thing now. But now people just like find it independently and like look at the online response for this. Like they're just referring to each other, and that's just great. I don't even know, they don't tag me, whatever. But like it's just really great to have this resource, and I'll show you a direct financial output of this later on. Finally, the last project I want to show you is the one on concurrent React, because this is something I was known for a while as well. Like React was like doing something really cool with like React suspense and time slicing and all that. I was like, all right, I want to collect a resource for this, and again put together a timeline. Like this took a lot of work. Let me show you the amount of work that was done here. So legacy, where's the stupid timeline? So it started out like this, like just chronologically. Oh shit. What? I think I rearranged the legacy folder, and I probably called it something else, timeline.md. All right, so I sorted things into like, okay, this is what the React team has said. These are things the community has code examples that everyone has done. There's general info. Here's like other interesting stuff that's going on. Like this was the community, watering hole for anything going on in React suspense, right? I owned that for like a year. And then it just got boring, so I gave up. And I think that's the same. That's similar to any other open source project, open source code projects that you can lose interest and walk away, and someone else can fork it and keep going, and it's totally fine. Yeah, I don't have a deeper point apart from that, but like, this is a thing that you can just do, and it doesn't cost a lot, and people can join you and like send in a bunch of PRs. And like, I've had PRs from really awesome people. I remember the day Ken C. Dodds PR'd some stuff in Tejas. So like, yeah, let's keep going on this, because I don't want to talk about myself too much. I'm not here to pump myself up. I'm just saying this has had a material impact on my life, my career, my dev knowledge, and I'm only like I've only done this for like 2 years. I'm not a super expert in this, but it's real, and this is the realest talk I can give you, man. So yeah, all right. So last part, the longest part, is why open source your knowledge. Like I'm gonna like just really hard sell you on this right now, because I believe in this strongly, and I think that you can adapt this to your to whatever you're trying to do. So why open source knowledge? Part 1. So the first part is the standard. Like if you've seen my Learn in Public talks before, then you're very familiar with this, and you're probably very bored of me right now. But I'm going to repeat myself again because I believe it. So why? You help yourself, meaning you build your second brain. Like you organize your knowledge, you store your knowledge somewhere else apart from your working memory, because in memory it's very lossy. And you can search it. It SEOs very well. Like typically I just use Google as my second brain. But then also just like search in a way that's organized well for you, that you can just retrieve very quickly. You also help beginners. This is obvious. You arrange and organize information for them that they can just learn from. But then you can also help people who know more than you, who are experts. Why? Because they can use you as a resource. Like they don't have time. Like they're just defining characteristics of experts is they don't have time. They have better shit to do than like explain stuff. But you can be their person for explaining stuff. You keep that knowledge base that they can point other people to, or they just point to you and just expect you to do other stuff, and you help them and they'll help you in future. Especially if you have misconceptions, right? This is called Cunningham's law. Like if someone is wrong on the internet, someone else will come and correct you, because that's just how the internet works. But the reason they'll fix your misconceptions when other people get ignored is that your voice is amplified, right? You're trying to open source knowledge here. They respect that because that's how they became an expert themselves. So they're incentivized to come and fix you, because by fixing your misconceptions, they'll fix misconceptions for everyone else that comes after, right? Like it's very, very high leverage, and people understand this. And finally, they can send opportunities to you. Basically, again, they're very busy, and they'll send stuff your way. It could be anything from jobs to like talks to whatever. This is very, very open-ended, and it's more about increasing a luck surface area by having things around that are friend catchers. And let's talk about friend catchers. So friend catchers are a term I borrowed, is a term from Patrick McKenzie, who is a very well-known author online. Anyway, it's something you offer for free that helps you catch friends while you sleep. I probably should edit this blog post to talk to add that bit about while you sleep. Like the definition of capital is that something makes you money while you sleep. So this doesn't really have like a direct financial benefit, but it definitely has like a social and intangible benefit that can translate to financial benefit pretty directly. And so open source knowledge is, directly helps you contribute to building friend catchers. And you can read the blog post for more on that. But the two themes I like to tie this to is one from Naval Ravikant, right? Whose whole secret to getting rich is to productize yourself. Like the thing that you're really super interested in, that you want to be an expert on. And you can productize yourself by separating your time from the benefit that's being given from the output of your work, right? Like that's how you create capital, and we live in a capitalist system. So you productize yourself by creating open source knowledge. That's a very non-monetizable way of doing it, but it's a very good way to start. And once you get really good at it, you can go do the other stuff. And the other part of this that's super powerful is the power of reciprocity, right? Like people understand that once you do someone a favor, they want to do a favor back for you. And if you've done the favor without knowing that you've done it, that's even better, because like people will just suddenly treat you better even without you knowing who they are, and that's really unreal, and it's happened to me a lot. And I think I definitely got lucky, and not everyone will have this, but it works on the smallest scale, to the point of like, hey, if you like put together this memo for if your coworker, and and you give it to them, they feel like they want to pay back that favor in some way. And so I think these two very powerful forces make friend catchers a very good use of time. All right, so we already talked about friend catchers. I'm gonna talk about more reasons, but if you're not already sold, then I don't know how to get across to you. So grow slow. I like this because like a lot of people criticize learning in public with like encouraging overnight experts. Like you like cram a bunch of docs, and then you like write a bunch of blog posts that sound authoritative, but you've never put stuff in production, and it's just like shallow advice that is not really informed by any real world experience. And that's something that I don't want to encourage. And I think the main way to get around that while still learning, right? You cannot stop, because the way you get to the end state is that you have to go through all the shit. And the way to get there is that you grow slowly and you explain and disclaim your status. Like, I'm a beginner in this. Here's my public notes. Like, yell at me all you want, but please contribute, right? Or GTFO. But as you grow, and as you sort of like build out your knowledge, because it will grow, you establish your knowledge alongside, you establish your expertise alongside, and people start to know you and associate you with this topic, because you've already planted your flag, you've put out your bat signal and said, this is where I'm interested in, and people start coming to you instead of you coming out to them. And that's a very inbound, outbound marketing thing, which I love from HubSpot, which I really start thinking about in this context as well. And of course, this directly has implications on how you look for jobs. It would be nice if people just came to you with things that you were already interested in, instead of you reaching out and seeing if you're interested in their stuff that they have. It's permissionless, so you don't need anyone's permission to start. So in open knowledge, like let's say you're giving a talk at a conference, you need someone's permission, right? You need the conference organizers to accept your CFP to give permission. Or if you write a book, you need someone's permission to buy your book, something like that. Here, you don't need anyone's permission. It's totally yours to own, to write. If someone else has done the same thing on the same topic, doesn't matter. You can do your version of it. And you don't need anyone to start. And it's very easy. Like, the expectations are very low. Typically it's a Git README, right? Like, it's that simple, and it can get more complex and more fancy as you go along. But the MVP is very, very simple, and it can stay that way for a long time. I'm mostly that way still, and it's just marked down, right? It's living. It's this also sets open source knowledge apart from open knowledge. It's just constantly updating, right? Like, people expect to collaborate on this, and it's constantly kept up to date, which is very good for like up to date evolving things, but also just like you're not just like one and done, right? Like, you're actually investing in a long term commitment in this knowledge, but then also the community around that knowledge, which pays off accordingly. It compounds. It's also remixable raw material. So this is why it's like kind of source code, right? Like it's the raw source code is placed out there. The raw atoms of knowledge are placed out there, and it's up to you to reassemble it for your needs. So this is where the CLI cheat sheet comes in handy. Like, I had that CLI cheat sheet, and I used it for my CLI work at work. But then later on, I came down to start doing a workshop on CLIs, and I just pulled again from the same source, but repurposed it for a completely different build target. You can think about this as different build targets for the same source code, and I created this egghead CLI course, like making custom Node.js CLIs. And like, that flexibility is something I experience in a lot of different areas, like TypeScript now, with design/CSS, even though I'm very bad at it still. But like, you can see how the having everything in place laid out for you in the way that you intimately understand and knowledge and had a hand in shaping and arranging is very helpful, right? For anything you could do in future. Like this is now your toolkit that you've assembled from scratch, that you can now reuse for the rest of your life, which is very, very scalable and much better than keeping it in your head, right? Which is a lot of like the way that we do. We just don't have a system. Like this is the de minimis system of like just open source that shit, and now you have something that grows as independently of you. All right, so the final factor into like why this works, I try to explain with a very fancy analogy. So in algorithms in computing, we have the concept of big O, which denotes the efficiency of an algorithm. I like to talk about the concept of big L, which denotes the efficiency of learning. And when I say learning here, I also mean personal growth, like your skills. And it's not just like paper learning, like you're also like, applying it. So the question is just like, you know how like when you look around, there's some devs who like grow a lot and there's some devs who don't. And like, what's the difference between them, right? So how much, like, let's say N is number of years, like how much do you learn over those N years? So constant L, right? L of 1 is the one trick pony. This person only knows one thing and they'll do that for the whole career. That's fine. Some people still hire COBOL programmers, especially now in New Jersey. But then I think most people belong in the L log N category, which is the lossy learner. That they'll learn a little bit, they'll lose a little bit, they'll learn a little bit, they'll lose a little bit, learn a little bit. And hopefully it's a net gain over time. And then, as they get more senior, like it kind of just levels out. I think that's a fine way to live. But you could try to be a little bit to retain a little bit more. That's why I call L of N the infinite learner, which is basically every year that you learn, you grow and you never lose, you never backslide, you never lose anything that you just learned, right? So you can learn infinitely, probably with a open source knowledge system, with a knowledge system. It's not open source. This is all private knowledge, right? Like let's say you have just extensive notes and you just like noted down everything that you've learned before. That's really, really great. And you can access that really quickly. That's someone with a good second brain. Okay, ln squared is the deep learner, someone who learns faster the more years they have, which means they not only learn well, they learn how to learn, so that the stuff that they learned before helps them learn in future. And this is very much on like mental models. They're very much on understanding core underlying principles that apply in multiple different domains. And you automate work, you anticipate future work, and you save learning in that sense, because you have just like a fundamental understanding. I don't think a lot of people get there. Of course, I try to get there, but I don't know if I'm doing a good job of it. But this involves like understanding the meta game, like what are the core principles that you see time and time again in different domains, so that you don't relearn them again. Like you just see the super set of principles. So that's learning in private. But then I think there's another whole other sector, which is learning in public, where we extend the way that you learn by another dimension, which is with other people, like people. P being your number of peers, your number of mentors, your number of I don't know, like whatever, like the people in your network that help you learn. So now we have these two variables, N and P, and let's try to just like think through the mental exercise of how learning in public is different, right? Like you have L P times N, which I kind of call the network learner, and I try to look for like associated graph of this, and this is kind of the few scaling laws that I came up that I found. So basically, here this is you, Sarnoff's law. This is you at the center of the world, and everyone that you learn everyone that you learn with directly contributes to your learning in a linear fashion. And this already is better. Like you could learn by yourself, but now you learn at the rate of what your peers around you learn as well, and you can lean on them, and they are also parts of your second brain. So, what's better than that? Which is an ideal. It's we're already off the charts in terms of like how people learn here, but it's LPN squared, right? Like it's not just you learning from other people, it's other people learning from other people in your network, but without interacting with you. Like you've actually managed to create a self-sustaining community, kind of like a nuclear reaction that's just kind of going now. And that's a learning community, and you benefit from this community growing. That you can tap on still whenever, right? But they're growing, and you're invested in their growth. Right here's kind of like self-centered, like it's kind of like bilateral interactions. But here you're just invested in the overall community's growth, and you grow along with that community. And I think that's extremely powerful if you can do it well. Reed's law is like kind of like the most extreme. I don't even include it here just because like it's so absurd. Like it's 2 to the power of n, and that's when each individual node can form their own subgroups and split off from there. Hey, maybe it works. I don't know. I just think like this notation is just like, it's indicative of like what is probably a good idea, right? Like these factors, like this, like LPN squared is probably a superset of LPN, right? Like it makes sense to invest in community. LN squared is a superset of LN, which means it makes sense to think about principles and learning how to learn. LN is a superset of log n, which means it makes sense to try to keep what you learned, right? Like it's just like it makes sense that these are core fundamental principles because that scales over time, and you only have so much time. So you should be really, really concerned with n and getting the most out of n. I put this all together in a chart, and obviously these are just like the typical Big O charts. And if you want to see more on this thesis, check out my blog post on Big L notation. I won't go further on that. All right, so that's all my pitch. Let's say you're bought in and you want to do it. These are my tips for what I wish I known when I started, and yeah, I mean I'll probably have more tips in future, but this is just what I have now. So structure is as important as content. So people think they come to you for content, but they're also coming to you for curation. Like the way that it's just like, how do you introduce these things, like A, B, C, and then like what's the relative size? Like if this is like if your repo is like 90% A and then 5% B, 5% C, that's kind of imbalanced. So you even got to think about things to the extent of visual balance and like hierarchy, and like when to split stuff out, when to like say no to like including some things. These are all very, very difficult things, and as important as the content, because people come to you for the curation. Copy and paste examples are just easy ways to deliver value. Like people want to know that, hey, I saw this snippet here. I can come to your repo, copy that snippet, paste it in my thing, and be on my merry way. So that's like grab and go. It's just very instant value, instant gratification, and they'll keep coming back to your repo. It's just a really good way to establish initial value. Of course, you want to try to go and deliver and share more values than recipes, but I think that's a really good way to start. Tractable, so you should not try to bite off more than you can chew. So basically, don't try to solve general artificial intelligence in your little thing. Like just try to scope it down to something manageable that can realistically be solved by the open source knowledge that you're working on. It's resonant, so basically people should say, heck yeah, like this is the thing that I've been looking for. I wish I had seen this 2 years ago. That's the kind of reaction you want, because you're solving a real pain point. You can also think about it from like outside of yourself, just like try to help others, help their own friends. Like they should look good sharing your stuff, right? And that will encourage them to share your stuff, which means that you need to also be cognizant of like how your stuff ages. Like, so just try to be timeless, and also don't put a whole bunch of irrelevant junk in there. Ideally, not even your name shows up, right? Like it's literally about the content, and it should be the most relevant, to the point, direct way to directly address a with an audience in mind. And I think that just makes sense. That's how you help others help them, and then they'll help you in return. Underserved is probably a good thing. I might take that out. Open license. I always license my repos. I just think like it's a good thing to do. Like you should also license your code. So why not license your repos? So I just MIT license all my knowledge, and you're free to take and modify and don't attribute, whatever. And finally, the world punishes the vague wish and rewards the specific ask. So this is something I got from Tim Ferriss. And this is more about just like the more you know what you want, the more the world will give it to you, and the more vague you are, the more the world will just frustrate you and just not know what to do with you. And so if you're like, I just want to get better at design, you're like, all right, fine, I'll give you some design 101 stuff that you've seen before, and it's just completely, like you know all this, it's not really very helpful. But if you're like, I want to get better at understanding Bezier curves in animation, I have a specific resource for that, and I know the person you should speak to, and I'll refer you to that person. That really works, and it just helps to narrow people's minds more, because otherwise they'll just go as generic as possible, and it's not really helpful. Of course, it takes work to be specific. I'm working on this myself. Okay, so call to action. There's you. You have some knowledge. You have some, knowledge. You have some things that you want to get better at. You should open source that knowledge, and then that's future you with the fireball. I don't know why I'm putting this side. I don't know. I just like the Mario flower. And that's it. If you want more talks from me, head to my site. And you're already on my YouTube channel, so thanks for watching. Something, like and subscribe. All right, let's kind of kill that session. Thank you.